Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Odds are, if you're watching this video, your dinner probably looks like the one in the bottom portion of the screen right now, which is a good thing because there is a lot going on in the market right now. We are seeing a lot of crazy moves. We have Jeff Bezos dumping billions of dollars of Amazon stock, and we are heading into the absolute worst 2-week span for the stock market with data going all the way back to 1928. All while this is happening, we have SPY at the crucial $500 level, and we have more exciting earnings throughout the rest of this week. So we have a lot to talk about today. Stick with us all the way to the end, and we're also going to go over some great setups. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, the market actually ended up being pretty resilient today. It came running back up towards that $500 mark, and early on, it was very choppy. The market tried to run up a little bit, got rejected at $498, came all the way down to like $494.50, and now we're closing up around $499. I actually could not believe that the market got all the way back up there in the close. Maybe we'll actually bounce off of $500 tomorrow morning and end up moving back down or see a nice breakout up above there, but $500 is definitely going to be in watch. And I noticed you mentioned the seasonality, Mike, and man, this is some pretty big numbers. Whenever we look at the seasonality, I could not believe that you mentioned this was the worst 2 weeks out of the entire year. That's a pretty big statement.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the way it works is we are about halfway through February, and the second half of February is the worst 2-week span for the market, like I said, with data going way back to 1928. The first half of February, as we could see in the left red box, is generally pretty positive, which, you know, it's been a pretty good market lately. But that second half is normally a pretty nasty one. And then even looking at the market's historical performance on a day-by-day basis for the month of February, you can see like right once it hits like that 15th day of the month, you know, at least historically speaking, it's almost like all downhill from there.
It really is, and that's some pretty big information. I know that whenever you look at the election year historical data as well, it kind of suggests that towards this time of the year, we start to see some downtrend. And just to see that the overall historical data is pointing us down is a pretty scary thing, considering that the S&P 500 is sitting right at that key $500 level. But to see that this is the 2 worst weeks out of the entire year is a pretty big statement. Seriously, like I know everyone always talks about September. Oh my gosh, the second half of February is even worse. So, and I mean by a lot, like that's like more than, 100% more than the first half of September, which is the other second worst, 2-week time span. So whenever I see that data, it's definitely a scary thing to say, but the SPY actually was resilient today, ran up to around 500. So I'm sure a lot of people tomorrow are going to be watching that $500 level, watching and waiting to see if we end up getting a key breakout or breakdown. And whenever I go look at earnings and other stuff going on tomorrow, like there's not really much on the economic data side of things. We do have retail sales, but besides that, the earnings are pretty negligible until tomorrow night.
Exactly, and let's dive into some of those ones because there are a handful of growth stocks set to report. As we talked about throughout the week, a lot of eyes will be on DraftKings and Coinbase tomorrow after close. They're two big growth names, and DraftKings, of course, with the Super Bowl lately, there's been a lot of hype in the sports betting industry, so there will be a bunch of attention with that one. And Tom, we can't discount Coinbase either because the cryptos have been booming lately.
It really has, and going over to Coinbase's chart, it had a great day today, up 14.24%. That was a fantastic move, and Bitcoin had a great extension up above 50,000, and I figured we had to mention that today because it moved above $50,000 recently, but today was the true day, and I should say more of last night, is whenever it really got that big extension. It ran all the way up to like 52,000. So as we look at Bitcoin here, keep your eyes on Coinbase, Mara, Riot, and other Bitcoin stocks in the short term. I know even IBIT has been pretty popular since these ETFs came onto the market.
There we go. Another thing that we have to talk about right now is the way Jeffrey Bezos is dumping the bag with his Amazon shares. So, and I can't really blame him too much either, but basically what we've seen over the recent week or so, or you could say the past week, Jeff Bezos, like I said, is dumping a lot of his Amazon shares, a little over $4 billion to be exact. And in the past, whenever Jeffrey has dumped his shares, he normally sells somewhat close to the top. The last time he sold shares was in the beginning of November of 2021, which ended up being so close to the top of Amazon stock at the time.
It really did. And I mean, man, that was very, very close. And considering he's selling right now, as it's starting to get back up to that big key resistance point, does not, surprise me at all, especially with the way the market's been going, how high we are above resistance, and just how resilient we've been. Like we've been talking about, it's the best week the market's had in 50 years. So if we continue green this week, that's going to be a big feat. And the SPY's running up to that $500 mark as well. I'm not surprised that he's starting to take profits. And I think a few more big names out there will start to take profits as well, along with just a lot of traders in general, right? And whenever you see these big names start selling, that freaks people out a little bit. We've seen Tesla stock fall quite a bit off of news of Elon and his brother both selling, and to see Bezos selling this much is a pretty big sign.
Exactly. And like you mentioned, Tom, this recent uptrend with the market overall has been the biggest uptrend, in 50 years. 14 out of the past 15 weeks have been green, and the strength has just been extreme, right? So it's to see some profit taking isn't all that crazy to see, and it's definitely not a bad idea either. Now, going forward, like we said, we are heading into a somewhat tricky and historically weak part of the year, so looking at the market right now, I think SPY is at a make or break level. It's at that crucial $500 mark, and I think over the next couple days, if we continue to see the weakness that we saw yesterday, things can get very nasty very quickly. At the same time, though, if the market stays strong and just stays flat or even shows some positive movement, the market can easily keep running higher. So it's we are at a pivot point right now. Either the market's going to hold strong and, it'll be all good in the short term. But if it doesn't, we can easily see a, waterfall effect of selling pressure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we could. And the one thing I'm really not hoping for is a lot of chop, right? Sometimes whenever the market gets to these key levels, it likes to chop around for a little while. And judging by the price action the past few days, I'm really hoping that does not happen here. But it's definitely something to keep in mind just in case it does. And if that choppiness does occur, then I think it's best to go look at individual stocks and other parts of the market, maybe even China stocks, which has been seeing, a lot of good movement lately. But whenever I look at the S&P 500, Mike, that $500 level is definitely in watch, and we're very close to it heading into tomorrow. So a lot of people are going to ask themselves, how do I play this? If you see a solid rejection off of 500 tomorrow and a bunch of the big tech stocks, let's say Apple, Nvidia, Amazon are all pushing lows of day at the same time, it might be a good opportunity to maybe look at something like UVXY or VIX or something along those lines, right? UVXY did not do very well today, but on a day where the market drops, this will see a ton of movement to the upside. It's only natural for these, volatility indexes to pull back from time to time, especially on recovery days like this.
No doubt, and well said, Tom. So good stuff there, but how about we get into some more specific setups for tomorrow? A stock I'm watching pretty closely is JD, and it's a Chinese stock. These stocks have been seeing a lot of big money plays lately, and just relatively good news, and they've been receiving some good news lately. We'll leave it at that. The Chinese government is doing almost everything they can to pump their market, and it's definitely hard to fight against that. But either way, I'm looking at JD to the upside tomorrow. It had a pretty good day in the market today. I would love it. I would love to see it get back above that $23.50 level. And as long as the price action just stays strong and the stock stays relatively close to its high of day, I would definitely consider playing this one to the upside.
Yeah, me too. I think that's a big spot in the short term. And if we continue above that, recent high, I think that we could see some good movement up. So I do like JD. And I was actually looking at a bunch of China stocks today and looking at the same type of setup. So I'll definitely keep it on the radar for tomorrow. And with my first setup, I'm looking at Coinbase. I had to mention it today, right? It's up 14%. The Bitcoin stocks are going crazy. And it closed around its high of day, which I thought was a really good close for this one. If it could break above 161 tomorrow morning with some solid momentum, then I'll look at some more calls.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching is SMCI, the beast. This stock has been running like none other over the past year. Like seriously, 2024 started and this stock just like took off like a rocket ship. It went from like 280 up to 885 in counting, you can say. But, like all good things, they eventually come to an end, right? And SMCI, they've been running, but you can't just go up nonstop every single day forever, right? At some point, you have to slow down or at least pull back a little bit. So I'm watching this one to the downside. I know some people are going to freak out about that because, they're super euphoric with all of these high-flying stocks. But at the end of the day, they're very overbought. So I'm watching them to the downside. But here's the thing. With a setup like this, you can't just blindly jump into, and short it, right? You have to wait for at least the momentum to turn a little bit. So with this setup, I would love to see it get back below 850 at a minimum, and then just see some, decent price action where the stock is actively trading on its low of day. If that's the case, I would definitely consider shorting it and playing it to the downside.
Yeah, I would too, Mike. I mean, that could be a solid double top there. And as these tech stocks start to fall, I could see more downside selling pressure coming in too. And just in case they do rise, I'm actually looking at Netflix to the upside tomorrow, up above this key 582 mark. I know it was bouncing around 580 today, and I think tomorrow, if it could break 582, we could see some good movement. But one thing that I really like about this setup compared to like SMCI is that it's running up into recent resistance, right? SMCI is kind of parabolic at all-time highs. If Netflix could just break 582, I think there's a good momentum play off of that level. So I do like this one up, whereas SMCI is kind of more overextended in the short term.
Exactly. All right, well, good stuff there, Tom. And let's jump right into tomorrow's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Chewy to the upside.
CHWY. Yeah, looking at this one, it's starting to bounce off support at 1650, 1660. If it could end up breaking above 1760 tomorrow morning, then go ahead and look at calls. I could see this one, bouncing up off of support.
All right, and with the next one, we have Baba also to the upside.
Another China stock, Mike. How could we not have Baba on the list today, right? Starting to bounce up pretty well around recent resistance. If it breaks $74, then look at calls. That's right around the recent high.
All right, and then you can't forget about the last one, which is JP Morgan for both directions.
Oh man, the bank stocks are wild. Look at that chop on JP Morgan the past few days. It is stuck in a zone, but tonight it got pretty close to the high of that. So if it ends up breaking above 176.50, then go ahead and look at calls. I would say if you want to be really safe, maybe even look at 177, but then again, that would be a pretty big move. Now, if it ends up breaking down under 175, then look at puts. That's right around the mid-range recently.
All right, perfect. So we have the downside level for puts. We have the upside level for calls. That's for JP Morgan. Don't forget about the upside levels with Alibaba and Chewy as well. These three setups are potential trades tomorrow only if they break the levels Tom listed. We're looking for a strong, powerful break through the levels Tom listed, and then a continuation in the direction we listed. So keep a close eye on these stocks for tomorrow. But it's now about that time, Tom, for today's $3.4 million big money trade of the day. And you guys know the drill. We are looking at FXI. So basically, the big money put $3.4 million into the FXI 23 strike call options that expire on April 19th of 2024. This is basically like a bunch of Chinese stocks all in one. The big money's betting on these stocks in a bullish way. The Chinese government's trying everything they can to get these stocks to start to rise. And it looks like we might be seeing a slow shift in sentiment. But either way, these call options are close to the money. They have some time to them, and overall, the risk to reward is pretty good in my opinion. The way I look at it is FXI right now is at, let's say, $22.70 a share. You might put a stop loss around $20.80 per share, and your profit target might be all the way up to like 26 or even higher. So I just think the overall risk to reward is pretty good, even if it's not like the safest trade ever.
Yeah, the risk reward's great. And, anything with China, I mean, I don't think I consider anything with China safe.
No.
Right? I mean, now I will say this, China is it's a foreign entity. There's always stuff going on with them, and there's always news that's going to affect these stocks, and they gap up and down quite a bit. But even for me, like, I'm not a big China stock fan in the grand scheme of things, but whenever I see the opportunities, I do take them. And I think that this is a pretty good opportunity in the short term, especially given the movement now. And we've been seeing quite a few big money plays come into this one recently. Just last week or a couple weeks ago, there was another 4.5 million play going out to 2025 on FXI. So I think that as the Chinese government throws more money in here, it's just inevitable that their markets will start to rise at least a little bit in the short term. Like Mike said, we don't need anything crazy. We don't need BABA to run back to $30, $40, $50. All we need is some nice movement in the short term, $25, $26, and these options will explode.
There we go. But Tom, I have to tell you, I'm getting pretty excited. The market is really heating up. We all know we're in for a hell of a year because many reasons, but the market's heating up. This should bring in a ton of opportunities in the short term. Whenever we see big moves in either direction, that is where the opportunity is. The last thing we want to see is chop, and the good news is we haven't seen too much chop lately, and I don't think we're going to see anytime soon. So that's very exciting. If you guys are new to the channel, demolish that subscribe button. You'll see our videos recommended to you more often. In every single video, we go over cool charts and data that you otherwise wouldn't see, just like the February seasonality that we talked about in today's video. On top of that, we talk about other important events like earnings, big moves, and just important things to be aware of. So come join the Stocked Up crew, demolish that subscribe button, and hear from us more often. But Tom, we also have to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Luis, in the Stocked Up Discord. He said secured some profits already from the SPY calls that I swung yesterday, and he crushed it. On top of that, Luis has been a great member of the Stocked Up community, so huge shout out to you, and keep on rolling, Luis. Let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome, Luis. I love to see these gains in here. Great job by you, and continue the nice work. And hey, guys, we're doing a live Q&A tonight for Trading Floor members at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested in that, make sure you join up on the trading floor. But let's go, Mike. Let's make it a great night. Let's go into tomorrow with some good conviction. Watch out for $500. That is a key level. And of course, everyone should have their eyes on DraftKings earnings, considering all the good movement with sports betting stocks lately.
There we go. And like Tom said, come join us on the Stocked Up trading floor. We are having a live event tonight. The link to join will be the first link in the description in the comments down below. Inside the trading floor, we do live events. You can chat with Tom and myself all day. We have an army of trading robots that, work all day long. And you can even access the big money trades that we talk about, but you get access to them on the same day that the trade is made. And a lot of times this can offer better entry prices. But with everything being said, we're a little bit over halfway through the week, so let's make sure to end on a green note. Thanks for watching, and let's crush it.